Spiritual guide or murderous guru?
Paul Mackenzie.
Since July 2024, Paul Mackenzie has been appearing before Kenyan judges. He is alleged to be responsible for the deaths of more than 400 people, whom he allegedly encouraged to fast to death. It is in the Shakahola forest in southeastern Kenya that the tragedy unfolded behind closed doors. This place, considered sacred, became a crime scene after a series of macabre discoveries. Mass graves containing dozens of bodies, emaciated survivors, hundreds of people reported missing. Why did Paul Mackenzie's followers join the pastor in this deadly endeavor?
The plan was to fast and pray until children, women, and men die.
He had the convincing power because everything he was saying was coming to pass.
How did this ordinary man turn into a guru?
He told me, your brother has a village. He acts as a king.
Why were the authorities unable to prevent this massacre? The Shakahola Massacre has shocked an entire nation and beyond.
What we have here in Shakahola is one of the worst tragedies our country has ever known.
This man is public enemy number one in Kenya. Terrorism, murder, cruelty towards children. The charges against the pastor are numerous. Paul Mackenzie, former taxi driver who fell into sectarian radicalism. Controversial televangelist who prophesied the apocalypse. A guru who allegedly indoctrinated thousands of followers.
Hallelujah.
The Africa Report traced the steps of the alleged perpetrator of the infamous Shakahola Massacre.
Mr. Mackenzie, when I knew him, he was actually not a pastor. He was a taxi driver. He was very quiet, very humble, but of course, charming. Whoever would meet with Mackenzie, he would see Mackenzie as a very good person, very nice person. That is the impression that I got first. As a taxi driver, and later on when he joined the church, he was basically a very collected person. Not abrasive, not arrogant. There must be something, either a doctrine that he got from somewhere. One of the things that he was preaching about was the end times. The world is coming to an end very soon. The world is coming to an end. Anything to do with education, medicine, science, to Mackenzie, that was too worldly. People needed to begin focusing of going to heaven. He was encouraging parents who have children in school to remove them from school. He was encouraging people not to go to, seek medical attention whenever they were sick. You are supposed to shave your hair. You are not supposed to put any makeups. You are supposed to be natural. He started telling women, if your husbands are not coming, to the church, remember those can be stumbling blocks of you going to heaven. So leave them, divorce them. Knowing what kind of a person he is, that revolution was such an abrupt one.
From the early 2000s, the young pastor, who attended the church of a renowned reverend, did not gain unanimous support. After a controversial sermon, Mackenzie was expelled from his church.
He did not leave the church alone. He left with a sizable number of members.
Ruth Kahindi was among those who believed in him. Seriously ill, she says she received a call from God. She must found a church with Paul Mackenzie.
So I told Mackenzie not to worry and promised him that we would fulfill the will of God together, as I had an agreement with him. We found that whenever he preached, he displayed that indeed he was a servant of God. So I thought, if he got a place and began preaching, he would attract more people to be saved.
The Good News International Ministries was born in 2003 in the stone courtyard of Kahindi's family home.
So the church went on until the place became full and the space was not enough. We went to Furunzi and built a church there. One day he was called in a Mombasa church. After conducting prayers, he was released and came back. We started seeing changes. I did not follow any of his rules, and we differed because of that. Previously, I would talk to him whenever he delivered radical teachings, but after chasing me, I could not talk to him. I had abandoned him.
Ruth was then ousted from her church. Moreover, her name never appeared in the official records. Mackenzie, meanwhile, continued his rise. The small tent that served as his church became too cramped. To accommodate an increasing number of followers, he built a large concrete building on his plot.
There are many followers, 2,500, 2,000, many. Others were standing outside the church. You know, my brother is like a politician. Politicians have their sweet tongues. When she tells some people do something, don't do that, people they get it and agree to leave the things and follow what he say. In 2016, 2017, my brother, he changed his preaching and he started to say, don't take your children to school. School is evil. For me, I see there is a problem with there is a problem. And sometimes I go and ask him, my brother, these things you told us to do, and he say, God is sending me and bring me this education is evil. So what he is saying to me in the dream, he sent me to tell you, my fellow. Many parents there, many fellow stopped their children to go to school and keep them in their home.
Mackenzie's sermons began to worry the authorities. He was arrested twice for radicalization. First in March 2017, then in October 2017.
In this case, the government was unable to bring proof that he was radicalizing anybody.
He was apprehended for the third time in April 2019. Paul Mackenzie was each time released either on bail or with a simple fine. In 2019, under pressure from the authorities, he yielded.
He told us as a fellow, he's going to close the church in 2019. I am stopped praying and preaching. I want to start farming. And he don't tell us where he will go to start farming. For me, I don't know that place called Shakahola.
It was there, in this forest, that the tragedy would occur.
An update now on a disturbing story out of Kenya.
The notorious Shakahola Forest Massacre.
One of the most bizarre and shocking deaths of hundreds of men, women, and innocent children.
Since April 2023, horror has a name in Kenya.
The Shakahola Forest.
After the discovery of the tragedy, an entire nation hung on the words of a forensic doctor who had unwittingly become a bearer of bad news.
Today we've managed to do 10 postmortems.
The total number of postmortems that we did today
were 24.
The autopsies proved it. Malnutrition was not the only cause of death among Paul Mackenzie's followers. Victims strangled, suffocated, missing organs on some bodies, but also sexual abuse, notably of children.
We have some leads. Those shanties may have been used, probably, for sex orgies.
The exhumation revealed the atrocities suffered by starving followers. The tough mission of exhuming the bodies was entrusted to the inhabitants of the surrounding villages.
Our job was tough because it's not easy to exhume bodies. I remember on the 14th day, we exhumed 29 bodies in one day. That's when we found 12 bodies of children in one grave near Mackenzie's house. There were several challenges, including dreaming abnormal things. We did it as residents of Shakahola to act as a future memory of what happened.
But what really happened in the Shakahola forest? Why did hundreds of followers agree to fast to death? Victor Caudo was one of the first to discover the scale of the massacre. He collected the testimonies of many followers under Mackenzie's influence.
He had the convincing power because he had started this long time ago and everything he was saying was coming to pass. So people had believed in him. He used to talk about a disease, something that even the whites, we won't be able to treat it. And when COVID came, all those who were listening to Mackenzie believed in him. They believed that it is the end of the world. So they had now to sell everything that they had or carry everything that they had to go and follow him where he was. And he was in the Holy Land now. The Holy Land was Shakahola. All the villages that we have in Israel are the same villages that we have in Shakahola. We had Jerusalem, we had Nazareth, we had Judea, we had Bethlehem, Jericho, Samaria, Galilee. Mackenzie's house was totally different from the other houses. It was very smart with tiles on the floor, with very beautiful paints inside. Then he had charts on the wall. They had information about end of time messages.
Books by foreign preachers were found in the forest, but his bedside book was none other than the Book of Revelations. The end of the world, a favorite topic of the most murderous gurus in history. Men and women with sometimes delusional theories, whose grip on followers was such that they led them to the worst. Joseph Kibwetere and Credonia Mwerinde, two leaders of an apocalyptic Ugandan sect. Marshall Applewhite, leader of the Heaven's Gate sect. David Koresh, leader of the Branch Davidians. Or Jim Jones, leader of the People's Temple and responsible for the Jonestown Massacre. Will Paul Mackenzie's name be added to the list? The Kenyan pastor is suspected of being inspired by the precepts of William Branham, an associate of Jim Jones. Mackenzie's followers were enticed by promises of fertile lands sold at attractive prices. Upon their arrival, a new life was offered to those called the Chosen Ones. A new house, sometimes a new identity.
I changed my phone number. We were being asked to change names. There, I was being called Miriam. It's the bodyguards who used to bring papers and would ask your name and change it because they know whoever comes to look for you shall not find you. But if you use your real name, it will be easier for you to be found when people come to look for you.
At first, Kadzo and her friends had the freedom to come and go. But the forest quickly turned into a fortress from which the followers could no longer escape. Increasingly isolated, they had no other activity than prayer.
The plan was to fast and pray until children, women, and men die. Mackenzie would not die after all followers died. Mackenzie said there would be feathers and he would fly to heaven and join the followers. There is a time I got into trouble when we were found eating in the daytime. I was told to raise my hands and got 10 strokes on each hand for that mistake. I was told that if they found me doing that again, they would kill me, as they had done me a favor the first time.
In the village adjacent to the forest, the inhabitants first witnessed the comings and goings of the followers. Then, not at all.
They used to buy small items and later began disappearing. And the last time I saw them, they told me Jesus was about to come and that they would stay there until Jesus comes. That was the last time I saw them.
In the heart of the forest, control over the followers became increasingly tight. The sanctuary turned into a prison, with a militia supposedly recruited by Mackenzie.
Those who defied the directive to fast or attempted to escape were either strangled or clobbered to death by the militia. Those who hesitated, refused to fast, or attempted to escape were brutalized.
It was difficult to escape because he had many security men, and if found escaping, it was easy for you to be killed. Burials were like weddings because people were killed and a large mass grave would be dug. So, if it's 10 who have been killed, they would be buried en masse. And if you witness that, you must keep your composure, or else you could collapse or lose control of yourself. After the burial of those killed, we would be given 2 packets of biscuits and half a cup of juice to celebrate. Then we would be denied food again, and whoever fell into a bad state would be taken to be killed and later be buried.
Like many other women, Rehema recounted having been raped.
We thought these people could infect us with diseases and decided it's better to make our own escape plan.
When Rehema was raped, we realized it was now too much, and we looked for ways of escaping to return home. I told my friends we should escape. We would rather die in the forest than continue seeing what was happening there. Then one night, we decided to escape.
But it was only much later that the world would discover the massacre unfolding behind closed doors. It was March 17, 2023. Francis Wanje received a phone call. On the other end, his son-in-law's uncle announced terrible news.
He told me that there's an emergency situation which I was supposed to act on. My family, Emily, the children, the husband, were in danger at the Shakahola forest. So that was the first time I heard about Shakahola. I was shocked, totally shocked. I could not believe it. I was not myself. I just found myself like, I don't know, I cannot explain that particular day. I could even see nothing but just darkness in my eyes. I could not believe it. And in fact, he told me that already perhaps some of my people had already died. He insisted that I should now take an action to ensure that I go and rescue the remaining ones.
From Mombasa, Francis Wanje moved heaven and earth and got the police to go to Shakahola.
They went to the forest now. They're straight to where my people lived. The firstborn was held by the grandmother. She was like in a state of prayer, praying for the child. The child was very weak, very, very weak. So the police, what they did, they just ran, they grabbed the child. And the grandmother, seeing that there were new people around her, she ran away, disappeared into the forest. They gave glucose to the child. He said that he had been fasting for about 7 days, 1 week. He was emaciated. You could see the ribs. When he was asked about the whereabouts of the two brothers, he told them that the two brothers had already gone to see Jesus, meaning they died, and he showed them the graves.
It was the youngest of the family, Imani, who passed away first on March 15th. His older brother, Saith, died the next day, the 16th. Ephraim, the eldest, was supposed to die on the 17th.
In fact, he told them that the clothes that he was wearing had been bought specifically for the burial by his father.
Here is little Ephraim, on the day the police rescued him. Mackenzie was arrested 5 days later. For lack of evidence, he was released on bail the next day. He would not be jailed until 22 days later. When Francis Wanje asked for help, here's what the police reportedly told him.
Why are you engaging yourself in Mackenzie's story? Mackenzie is another person. He's a very powerful person. In fact, they told us to forget about Mackenzie.
During Paul Mackenzie's trial in August, the former commander of the Langobaya police station assured that he and his colleagues knew nothing. He swore never to have covered up for the pastor. The report of the Kenya Human Rights Commission contradicts his testimony. A few months before Ephraim's discovery, Paul Mackenzie personally went to Langobaya. He complained about a Facebook post that he accused of tarnishing his name. He said he was in danger. The police then reprimanded the administrators of the page, but no investigation was launched regarding the pastor who returned freely to Shakahola. The rest of the report is damning for the authorities. They are accused of negligence and of having left the followers under the control and at the mercy of Mackenzie and his militia. After the discovery of the tragedy, the then Minister of the Interior, Kithure Kindiki, took a strong measure. He decided to reassign all members of the county's security services. Security failure, negligence, complicity. Hard to sort out truth from falsehood. The chief of the village of Shakahola, for his part, pleads ignorance.
Mackenzie brought a negative image. When I attend a meeting in Malindi or Kilifi, when I introduce myself as a village elder from Shakahola, everyone looks at me like a lion. Mackenzie or Shakahola, the name will stay there forever.
What we have here in Shakahola
is akin to terrorists.
It's a shame on the political leadership of this country.
It's one of the worst tragedies our country has ever known.
The abuse of religion.
The shockwave caused by this tragedy pushed President William Ruto to attempt to regulate churches.
Very anti-religion things.
For Francis Katana, the problem lies in a misinterpretation of Kenya's fundamental law.
The constitution, particularly by the clergy or the, as we call them in Kenya, men of the cloths, they have interpreted the freedom of worship to mean that you can worship or you are free to do whatever you want to do. Every freedom comes with responsibility, that there has to be certain limits. I think that has been violated. If we have churches that are not affiliated with any mainstream denomination and they are not registered, close them down.
Will the Kenyan government risk alienating the leaders of Pentecostal churches? Today, they represent over 30% of the religious landscape. When the terrorism trial of Mackenzie and his co-accused opened on July 8, 2024, they all pleaded not guilty. Mackenzie's lawyers and family continue to proclaim the guru's innocence. His mother is convinced her son has never harmed anyone. She said so in an interview with The Nation Africa on April 28, 2023. Since then, Anastasia Mwele has disappeared from the media radar. She lives a stone's throw from the gigantic church her son built. The Africa Report obtained from Paul Mackenzie's eldest son a visit, without his grandmother's consent.
So he's where he did all his preaching. Here is where women sit and men sit here. He took the church as his home. So the way he is at church, he'll be at home. So we are like blind right now, we can't see any further. It's been hard at home, so much happening. We miss our father, he's a human also. They need to be out and taking care of my siblings, they need him. We are all humans. Be kind.
Robert Mbata had trouble believing the accusations against his brother.
He was a good boy and he was a role model. He is a cool. I was shocked because I wasn't expected to hurt my brother is a killer. It takes time to believe or to understand what's going on. For him, he's innocent and he don't associate with any kin of dying somebody there in the Shakahola, and that grave was there before he bought that land. He say, I am innocent and I can't say much because only my God know I am innocent. But when I tell to people and nobody can trust me, but God will trust me, but for me I am innocent. That is his words, not me.
In Shakahola, the last exhumation operations took place in June 2024. Most of the victims' bodies have not been returned to their families. Hard for them to grieve under these conditions. Francis Wanje was able to attend the burial of his daughter and one of his grandsons. But the incomprehension remains.
Even today, I don't know what Mackenzie gave these people. They don't want to change at all. I don't know. If it is brainwashing, yes, but how? Because some of them, my daughter is learned. She has a diploma in community development and counseling. And the common sense is supposed to be there. What I expect is justice to prevail. Mackenzie should get what he deserves. Me, I'm saying God is the one who is upon me, okay? In case there's one who is planning for anything bad to me, it is upon him and God.
Yet it is human justice that must now judge Paul Mackenzie. Whatever the outcome of his trial, he will go down in history as one of the worst, most criminal gurus of the 21st century.